Welcome to the FMC Lounge, everyone. I'm your host, Joe for show. In this video, we'll be going over a guide for the new Descendant Nell that came out in Season 3. I'll be covering mutant cells, arche tuning, external component cores, trigger modules, the different builds I use, and weapons. Y'all can do me a favor, leave a like, subscribe, comment down below. It would help with the YouTube algorithm. I would appreciate it a lot. Now, enough of the yapping. Let's jump straight into the video. Because Nell is a new Descendant, we are going to go through each of her abilities and break it down and stuff. So first thing we're talking about is our first ability, which is called Breach Projection. It fires a barrage of breach charge, dealing damage to hit enemies. If the enemy is hit inflicted with ESIF scan, additional effective trigger. So the breach charge, it shoots 3 shots and you get 2 stacks of this. So you can spam it up twice and then it's on a cooldown, whatever. The lower the cooldown, obviously you can spam it more quickly often. And when you have an enemy that is an ESIF scan, you're gonna get the additional effect. If you don't know what ESIF scan is, it's this, and then you see the enemies have that purple marker on them. When you do that, you're 100% more damage, burst damage, explosive damage range, and Gaze of Abyss cooldown reduction, which is not really doing too much. I was testing it out. We'll go over that Gaze of Abyss in a little bit. For the second ability is Breach Leech, and what it does, it creates an arch breach at a designated location. It inflicts a debuff on enemies near the created arcade breach, and the debuff is they're going to have less movement speed and more weak point damage from when we shoot them. It spawns an anti-gravity field. Reusing the skill will retrieve the arcade breach, which is going to give us more movement speed and also do damage to the enemies. And doing this will refund our cooldown. And there's another way you could refund your cooldown as well, and you could do that by using your third ability. This detonates the arcade breach, which is, you know, our second ability, because it creates an arcade breach, causing a gravitic reversal. And as you can see in the video, all the enemies are gonna get sucked in, which is pretty nice, because doing that you can hit all of them with your first ability. And this does a lot of damage. If you notice the burst damage skill power, it's 2135. It hits really hard. Mostly almost all the red bars are always going to die from this. The only ones that probably live are the yellow bar enemies. And also when you do this, it resets your second ability cooldown. Now as you can see right here, we're going to use our second ability, then we're going to use our third ability. Then look at our cooldown. It instantly got our second ability back, and then our third ability is on a 3-second cooldown. One thing to keep in mind, your third ability is not active unless your second ability is on the ground. It's the only way it will be active. And once you activate your second ability, you can activate it again to give yourself movement speed. If you notice right here, my sprint speed is at 1088, right? Once we use our second ability for a second time, my sprint speed went up to 1408. Now our fourth ability is the Gaze of the Abyss. Gaze of the Abyss is going to make all our fire attacks from Nell target weak points. So basically, you shoot the enemy anywhere on their body and it's going to be considered as a weak point. The only thing is your firearm additional effect is not going to get this weak point damage increase, because as you see, when we use Gaze of the Abyss, we're get 35% weak point damage increase. And what I mean, your firearm not get additional effect. For example, Perforator. When you shoot enemies in the head, weak point, you know, the headshot, you get the explosive effect, and then those explosive effects do more damage the higher the weak point damage is. Well, those explosive effects are not going to get that benefit of the 35% from this Gaze of the Abyss. And also, when you activate your fourth, if you do your ESIF scan, then you hit them with your first ability, you could extend the duration of your Gaze of the Abyss duration. As you see, it goes up to 24 seconds instead of 14 seconds. Now for our first build, this is going to be our mobbing build, and it's going to revolve around Shattered Heart. This build, you can use it for anything, you know, the new Axion planes, 400% dungeons, Sigma, you name it. So here are the mods. Go ahead and get your screenshots. Before we go over the mods, let's talk about what changes in our ability. If you notice, they're all highlighted green because we had a Shattered Heart equipped. So for the first ability, what changes is we get suspicion when we hit an enemy with our first ability that have been ESIF scanned. And basically that suspicion is a custom resource. If you notice, let me take this off. If you notice, under my MP bar, there's nothing there, right? But once we equip this mod, there's a bar there now. And one thing to keep in mind, to fill up your custom resource bar, they had to be ESIF scanned. So as you see, we're going to scan them, we use our ability, and then look at our custom resource. It's filled up. Our third ability, nothing changed as you've seen. And in our fourth ability, it completely changes. Now, so instead of our fourth ability granting us Gaze of the Abyss, where we do 35% more weak point damage with our weapons, it completely changes to a skill damage. And remember how our first ability, we fill up all the custom resources? All those custom resources is getting used for the fourth ability. And also, if you ESIF scan them, they will do increased damage as well. Now here's a little test of how much damage you're going to do. We're going to have 260 levels, Legion of Darkness. We got our custom resource filled up. We're going to ESIF scan them. Max DPS was 10 mil. And then for our passive ability, what Shadowheart does, it gives us 30% skill critical hit rate. As you see, if we take it off, there is no skill critical hit rate. It's just weak point damage. And because we're getting 30% skill critical hit rate, we're going to build into skill critical hit for this character, and we are going to have 100% skill critical hit rate. And we're going to do that by running these 3 crit hit damage mods and then plus blue beetle. And as you can see right here, we're going to use our second ability because it's a fusion, and we go look at our stats, 100% skill critical hit rate. Also for our trigger module, we are using death by 1,000 cuts. What this is going to do is it's going to send down meteors and it's going to do additional damage. So when we use our first ability, it can do a little bit more damage on enemies if they don't die from the first ability on one shot. As you can see right here from trigger module, like I said, most of the damage is going to be our first and then our fourth. And if you notice, it's just death by 1,000 cut. There's nothing else you could use. This is another reason why we're only using this trigger module. We're running focus on tech and to focus on non-attribute. We're using tech instead of fusion because our main damage source is going to be our first and our fourth ability. Don't worry, your second and your third ability are still going to hit very, very hard. We're running 1 HP mod, 2 cooldown mods, and then 2 range mods. Now I know you could get more range with the maximize range mod, but it's really not needed, and I'll show you right now. So using amplification control, we're getting 51.7% range, correct? And the range only matters for your second ability. If you notice, we're at 17.6. Now if we throw on maximize range, that's going to give us 94.4. That's going to be 43% more amplification control. But once we go to our range mod, it went from 17.6 to 18 meters. That's 0.4 meters. You will not notice that ever. You could also take off increased HP and go on a decimator if you want to do more damage. I don't like my characters to be squishy, so that's why I'm running 1 HP, but you could take it off or run something else different if you want. So the strat that you want to do with Nell abilities, you want to use your second ability and then hit them with your third to pull them all in, and then scan, and then use your first ability. And this is going to give you all your custom resources full, and then that's the combo. You did it over and over, and then you could fire, you know, your fourth ability as well. For our reactor, we are using a non-attribute tech reactor and are mounting a scout rifle, of course the blue beetle, which I'll talk about in a few seconds. For the 2 stats at the bottom, you want skill cooldown and skill critical hit damage. For our components, we are rocking the 4-piece enlightened mage sensor just for that 4% bonus when a stack of 3, when we use our abilities 3 times, or hits 3 stacks for 15 seconds, and we're going to get 84% non-attribute skill power increase, and also the 2 set, you know, 6% skill power. For our external component cores, HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense. I highly recommend having max MP for your sensor so you can spam your abilities more. And then there is a ESIF stat that you can get here. Unfortunately, I haven't been lucky to get one, so I don't know how much more benefits going to be. For our weapon of choice, we're using the blue beetle. 2 reasons only. 1, for sprint speed. Well, it's actually not needed anymore now I'm thinking about it, because you can just use your hover bike and spawn it anywhere. You don't even need the sprint speed cores anymore. But also we're using it because of the unique ability. When using a fusion skill, grant yourself arcane energy. Arcane energy is going to give you 150% skill critical hit rate. This is how we're hitting 100% skill critical hit rate. So if you notice right now, I'm only at 85, but once we use this, we're at 100. Now here are the cores and the substats. Just keep in mind these cores and substats that you are seeing, I put these on months ago when ultimate sharing came out. I didn't put these on when recently the blue beetle got a buff. So I don't know if these are the best stats to use to make the blue beetle do the most damage when you are shooting it. It's not going to affect how much damage Nell skills are going to do. And then here are the mods. Keep in mind what I said about the core and substats. It applies to this as well. And then for our inversion reinforcement, I went with focus boost just because when we defeat enemies, we're gonna get more skill cost reduction, which will help us have more mana when we spam our abilities. We are running selective nerve stimulation to help get some MP back. And then for the last one, we're using pain suppression. When our HP get under 50%, our max HP is going to increase. For our arche tuning, this is the route that I went with. And then for our mutant cell, we went with non-attribute cohesion. When we defeat an enemy, we're gonna get more non-attribute skill power up to 3 stacks. Here's a quick little gameplay of me showing you how the Nell mobbing build works and everything. For our next build, it's going to be our Purge build. Still going to revolve around Shattered Heart because we're going to do the most skill damage with this build. So here are the mods. Go ahead and get your screenshots. Basically everything the same. The only thing that's changed, we put on emergency measure just to do a little bit more skill critical hit damage, and we sacrifice 1 range mod for decimators so we can do even a little bit more damage. Main reason why most of the Void Erosion Purge maps, all the enemies when they spawn, they're already kind of group up, so 1 range is enough for you to use your second ability and then your third ability to draw the enemies in and then hit them with your first. And if any are still alive, you can just hit them with your first again or your fourth ability. For the reactor, the same as before, we're still using non-attribute tech, still scout rifle mount because of the blue beetle, and the 2 stats at the bottom, skill critical hit damage, the skill cooldown. For our external component cores, we're still rocking the enlightened mage set for our external component cores. HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense. For your sensor, I highly recommend get max MP. This will allow you to spam your abilities more often. For our weapon of choice, we are using the blue beetle. We will have 100% skill critical hit rate. If you notice right now, I'm at 67, but once we use our second ability, which is fusion, we are at 100%. Our other weapon is going to be the last dagger. Here are the cores and substats, and then here are the mods. For our version and reinforcements, it's basically the same thing. We're still using focus on boost, selective nerve stimulation, and then pain suppression. Now you can take this off and run this, so you can take a little bit less more damage. For our arche tuning, it's kind of the same as a skill as you just see. We just didn't use these 4. Instead, we put those 4 stats into here for a little bit more HP and more MP recovery modifier, since we're going to be spamming our abilities a lot. And for our mutant cell, we went with fusion tech tuning. Now here's a quick little gameplay of me showing you how the build works in Purge. Now the next build is going to be our bossing build. This build will work for the new Stormhanger Void Abyss boss and all regular hard mode bosses. The new Wall Crasher boss, this wouldn't work. You would want to use a different build, which we'll go over after this one. Again, it's going to revolve around Shattered Heart because this just does insane amount of damage. Here are the mods. Go ahead and get screenshots. It's basically the same, except for we are not running the HP mod. We take the HP mod off just to run a 4th crit hit damage mod, and we're running dangerous ambush instead of and we're not using no range mods. We're using dangerous ambush and strong mentality. The reason why, in our bossing build, the range only affects our second ability. We're not going to be using this on the boss. We're mainly using the first. We will only be using the first and the 4th ability for damage. We're using strong mentality just to add more skill cost so we could save our mana, so we expand our abilities more, and dangerous ambush so when the boss is done we can do more damage. Now you also can take off dangerous ambush and throw on hyper focus. Now you could use this to do more damage instead of dangerous ambush. I don't like to use hyper focus. Dangerous ambush is just much easier. When the boss is stunned, you're getting the damage increase. For our reactor, we're using a non-attribute in tech, and our weapon mounting is tactical rifle because we're using secret garden with it, which I'll go over in a little bit. Our stats at the bottom, you want additional skill attack when attacking Colossus and skill cooldown. For our external components, we're still rocking the 4-piece enlightened mage set for our external component cores, HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense. Our weapon of choice is the secret garden for the unique ability only. Basically what the unique ability does is when you use a tech skill, you're gonna get pest control, and with pest control you'll get increased skill power. Here are the cores and the substats. Just keep in mind what you're seeing right now on your screen. I added this on when Enos Reyes came out, not recently when the secret garden got a buff. So don't use this as a reference that this is going to do the most damage when you're shooting your gun, as it's not going to affect how much damage Nell's skill power is going to do. And then here are the mods. Just keep in mind what I said about the core and substats, it applies to this as well. For our inversion reinforcement, we're rocking the arche circulation tactic. When we hit the enemy with a skill, it's going to help our skill cooldown, will allow us to spam our first ability more. We're rocking selectionary stimulation, which is going to give us some MP back. Our MP is going to go really low against Stormhanger. And then when our HP is under 50%, this is going to increase our max HP and allow us to survive better against Stormhanger. For our arcade tuning, it's basically the same as the skill tree one, except for instead of going down here for these 3 range, we went this 3 route for the additional skill tag of Colossus. And then for our mutant cell, we went with final preparation just for that 9.5 skill power. Now for our last build, it's going to be another bossing build. This is going to be a support build for Nell, and it's going to revolve around restored heart. This build is mainly used for all the hard mode bosses and wall crasher, and it could even be used for the new Stormhanger boss. This is going to change our second and our third ability where it grants a buff. Now here are the mods. Go ahead and get the screenshots. So when we use our second ability, we're going to get continuous shield recovery and 100% incoming damage reduction for our shields. And as long as we're near the arcade breach, we will get this benefit. And then for our third ability, when you pop it, your teammates are going to get 30% more movement speed, 25% shield recovery, and 30% more skill power increase. This will be a great way to buff your teammates who has a skill power build. We're mainly going to be using this for wall crasher to buff everyone's damage, mainly our Serena, so we get a faster time. And we're going to be doing that with the fourth ability. When we pop our fourth ability, they're going to get that 35% weak point damage increase. And so for the mods, we're running 4 focus mods and then 2 HP mods, so it can be tanky. You don't need any defense. You can if you want, but it's not needed. Your reactor, it really doesn't matter about the weapon mounting, the skill power boost ratio, or the element. All that matters, that's at the bottom. You want skill cooldown. You actually want range the duration up. And with this gold skill cooldown, arcade cooldown, and our components cooldown, you could have your second ability as 1.5, your third ability at a 4.2, and then your fourth ability on 11-second cooldown. Just keep in mind your fourth ability cooldown doesn't start until the fourth ability ends. As you see, it's at 11 seconds, and as you see right here, when I pop the fourth ability, there's no cooldown. For the components, we're using Firebrand set just for the skill effect range and duration, the 2-set bonus, and then we're rocking 2-piece hunter just for that skill cooldown. For the external component cores, HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense. For our weapon of choice, it's going to be the Enduring Legacy, and mainly for the unique ability. When you are hitting an enemy, it's going to increase the status effect. On hitting a burned enemy, we're going to get increased firearm attack, and it's also going to reduce their fire resistance down. And that's going to make our teammates Serena do more damage with their Ancient Knight, and the Glade with their Restore Relic. Here are the cores and substats, and then here are the mods. Just keep in mind, this build is all about supporting your teammates. You not doing damage. You're the support. Help your teammates to do most of the damage. For our inversion reinforcement, we are running fire focus rounds, selective cellular stimulation, then pain suppression. For HP get under 50%, or max HP will increase. And then for our arcade tuning, this is the route that I went with. We don't need this enhanced skill power. I went with more HP because we want to be tanky since we're a support character. It's all about staying alive and buffing our teammates damage. I went with the enhanced skill cooldown so we could spam our second and our third ability to buff our teammates skill power build, and then our fourth ability to buff our teammates weapon damage build. And then for our mutant cell, we went defense neutralization. Now, one thing to keep in mind, what does it say? When landing a skill attack on enemy with full HP, it's going to inflict defense neutralization. Their fire resistance is going down by 30% and their defense is going to go down by 50%. It says when an enemy is full HP. Well, Colossus, they have a shield, the white bar health, and then the regular red bar health. As long as they have that white shield, that means they are still at full HP. So you could always hit them with your first ability like Wall Crasher, and they're going to get all this debuff on them. And then on top of the debuff from our Enduring Legacy, our teammates are going to be doing so much damage against Wall Crasher. If you need a reactor for Nell, check the pin comment down below. I will have a YouTube short showing you a quick and easy farm so you can go get the reactor of your choice. Well, that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully this guide helped you decide on how do you want to make Nell, how to play her. Thank you for watching, everyone. I will catch you on the next video.